Khenpo Sodargye.Udāna Sūtra L22
The unsurpassed, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us all give rise to the unsurpassed bodhicitta. I will continue to explain the Udāna Sūtra. During the process of teaching the Udāna Sūtra, indeed, right now we are primarily focusing on teaching the chapter on attachment in detail. Here, there is something important that I would really like to remind each and every one of you. I don't have a definite date yet, but at the end of October, and we're only in early September now, so it will probably be at the end of September or around the beginning of October. Right now, nothing is set in stone. As for the exam content, today I discussed with some of the esteemed Dharma teachers the very first chapter, the chapter on impermanence, and the fifth chapter, which is now the chapter on attachment. You all still really need to review these two important chapters indeed. At that particular time, the main examination will be a written test. According to this exam, you will need to prepare diligently for it. I am letting everyone know about this information here as well. Now, as for all of us, in the past few days we have consistently been reciting the sacred wrathful Guru Rinpoche's mantra. I don't know exactly which day. Some recordings of our lectures were eventually uploaded to the internet. After they were uploaded, maybe the view count was quite large, so they were all completely taken down. This wasn't something I asked everyone to upload online. But overall, the other day when I checked, it seems that in total, the recitations, some people recited 100,000 times, some recited 10,000 times, and some recited at least over 1,000 times. So this time, the total number of recitations has exceeded 200 million. So this time, with all of us reciting together, the merit we've accumulated is indeed tremendous. If you can form good connections within such a large number, it will be very beneficial. Personally, I also made a solemn vow in front of the monastic community to truly recite a full 10,000 times, not 100 million, just 10,000 times, and I have made this solemn vow as well. I sincerely hope that everyone here will also do their absolute best to complete it. Please take a careful look at your own personal situation. If it's truly too difficult, then reciting 1,000 times is also perfectly acceptable to me. But I think at the very least, reciting 10,000 times shouldn't be too much of a problem, right? This mantra is relatively easy to recite. For some of us who may not understand the Wrathful Guru Rinpoche mantra, or if it's difficult, you can recite the Guru Rinpoche mantra instead. I myself regularly recite the Guru Rinpoche mantra. For people living in the city, reciting this is also very beneficial. Overall, as everyone knows, we are not praying to Guru Rinpoche because we study the Nyingma tradition. It's not so. It is true that those who pray to Guru Rinpoche will not have their Dharma connection severed by various obstacles in this very life. Their own practice will begin and end well. We do not pray to Guru Rinpoche just because we are Nyingmapa. For all of us, Guru Rinpoche, regardless of which school or tradition, as we have truly mentioned before, all the great masters and their eminent teachers are greatly and very much aware of his profound kindness and blessings. If he had not subdued those spirits and demons at that time, Tibetan Buddhism as it is today might not necessarily be so flourishing and truly prosperous, because he had indeed entrusted the 12 earth goddesses to the protection of the Dharma after subduing them. There was a time when Tibetan Buddhism was almost completely wiped out in Tibetan region. For example, between the earlier and later dissemination periods about 1,000 years ago, it was an especially critical and dangerous time. But at that time, thanks to the power of the Dharma protectors, as well as various conditions, the Dharma flourished again. Of course, in the very beginning, during the time of building Samye Monastery, there is less need to mention it. Everyone should be aware of this history, especially 50 or 60 years ago from now. Tibetan Buddhism also suffered a catastrophic disaster. At that time as well, it was through the blessings of the Dharma protectors and Guru Rinpoche. So in each person's own practice, when encountering particularly great difficulties and obstacles, at that time Guru Rinpoche could manifest before any sentient being, no matter who they were. Therefore, if we pray to Guru Rinpoche with single-minded devotion, I think nowadays many people, including those outside as well, and some practitioners in major cities within the region, they now have an especially strong faith in Guru Rinpoche. It should be this way. With this, we do not distinguish between any specific schools of Buddhism, nor any particular regions, nor any other identifying identities. As long as one truly prays with sincere devotion, one will definitely receive benefit. That is precisely why every single year we also very frequently and devoutly pray to the revered Guru Rinpoche here. So I sincerely hope that all practitioners themselves, if they can practice smoothly and without any obstacles themselves, and truly successfully benefit all other sentient beings, this is indeed the most important, most inconceivable, and most merit-generating. I just wanted to specifically mention this here. Next, we will briefly continue discussing further the Udāna Sūtra. If a person truly cherishes themselves and actively seeks genuine happiness through their virtuous and commendable actions, then they will easily attain happiness, so do not commit any evil deeds. Here as well, the case was already discussed earlier. All 5 of these verses, a relatively short case we talked about yesterday. There are more cases in the chapter on impermanence. There aren't as many cases in the later sections. So here, as we mentioned before, anyone in the world, if they truly love themselves, if they truly like themselves and treat themselves with special responsibility and respect, then what is the most effective way or the proper method to do so? It should be primarily through diligently practicing virtuous and wholesome deeds, whether it's generating genuine renunciation, developing profound bodhicitta, or practicing non-dual wisdom, or contemplating the precious rarity of human life, the fleeting impermanence of life, and so on. Only by practicing virtuous deeds can we indeed attain happiness. We should seek happiness through the method of doing good. It is also stated in the Buddhist scriptures also. The Buddha said, monks, if we in this world truly need a certain kind of fearless and unwavering merit in our lives, a merit without fear, only such truly profound and lasting fearless merit can bring about true happiness. Therefore, our fundamental approach and practical methodology. Nowadays, many people love themselves and like themselves, but the way they really love themselves, some people may actually be going about it in entirely the wrong way. If we truly seek genuine happiness by diligently practicing virtuous deeds in this particular way, then it becomes quite easy and truly effortless to obtain both worldly and transcendental happiness simultaneously. In the world, as everyone knows, long life, wealth, or freedom from illness, the 7 kinds of virtues of a good rebirth are attained. As for transcendental achievements such as those of the Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, Bodhisattva, and Buddhahood, there is nothing wrong with any of these. So, in the course of this entire process, we must be extremely careful and vigilant to ensure that we never commit all kinds of detrimental and harmful negative actions. There are many types of negative actions, and everyone really should be fully aware of this important information. Those who commit negative actions will naturally fall into unfortunate realms. If one performs virtuous deeds, the merits of both worldly and transcendental achievements will naturally be complete. In the Dharma-saṅti Sutra, it is also said, if a person avoids all evils and constantly practices virtuous deeds, with body, speech and mind truly kept pure, they are indeed not far from profound enlightenment. It is clearly explained in this way. If someone truly practices virtuous actions, stays away from negative actions and constantly does good, then their body, speech and mind will all become pure. If one's body, speech and mind are purified, then in this life one will also attain various joys of the human and heavenly realms, and in future lives one will attain all kinds of transcendental merits. There is nothing difficult about this. Therefore, we often say that if everyone truly seeks genuine and lasting happiness, then one should definitely not enjoy engaging in harmful negative actions. If this is indeed the case, the resulting consequences will naturally be quite unhappy as well. In fact, we sentient beings are truly of all kinds, and sentient beings themselves are of all varieties, and so are the karmic actions. Our identities are also quite varied and unique. So if we are not really careful, it's quite hard to say exactly what we might eventually become in the future. As stated in the Sutra of the Right Mindfulness of Dharma, if one creates various kinds of karma, one will experience various kinds of results. If we carefully plant all kinds of different seeds properly, then there will naturally be all kinds of specific corresponding results or diverse fruits. For example, among various plants, cypress trees, pine trees, radishes, cabbages, and so on, when you plant their respective seeds, each one will certainly yield its own truly delicious kind of fruit. All kinds of beings are born due to all kinds of karma. We sentient beings are the same way. There are all sorts of births. Some people are good-looking, some are not. Some are intelligent, some are foolish. Some people are quite wealthy, while others indeed are not very fortunate. Everyone's circumstances are different. Even identical twins often find themselves in quite different life situations. As we extensively discussed just the day before yesterday, you see, good parents do not necessarily have good children. Just like among the noble lineages of the Tibetan elders, even among the royal families, this can be clearly seen. And even if siblings are good, it doesn't necessarily mean that one of them is good as well. So every sentient being has their own individual karma and their own distinct causes. These specific causes give rise to all kinds of various results. Therefore, the Buddha also said in the sutras, the net of karma is extremely vast. The web of karmic power is immense. It's very much like our current wireless communication networks, whether it's China Unicom, China Mobile, or China Telecom. These extensive networks are generally thought to cover a great many places indeed. But in reality, they're not that extensive. They can only cover the areas we are involved with. But the net of karma, regardless of whether there is a signal or not, whether in the past or the future, it remains deeply rooted in the alaya consciousness of sentient beings. Before its result matures, it will not fade away. Therefore, we should strive to practice virtuous deeds as much as possible. Indeed, in this very life, some results will naturally and truly manifest on their own. For example, maybe it was last year or so. In one particular place, when a person went out, he saw an elderly lady who had fainted on the side of the road. When she unexpectedly fainted, he didn't care about anything else at that moment. Nowadays, in many cities, since the little Yueyu case, after that event happened, many people are afraid to help others, but that person, out of great kindness, immediately went to swiftly rescue her and promptly helped her up right away. At the same time, he called 110, the emergency number. And just at that moment, a rather large truck happened to be completely blocking the entire way forward. When this substantial vehicle was obstructing the path, maybe it was due to altitude sickness or something else, he himself fainted. He collapsed as well. As a result, 2 vehicles arrived, and both people fainted on the ground. At that critical point, they promptly started to resuscitate both individuals. Following the successful rescue efforts, just a few hours later, both of them had been successfully saved. Remarkably, both of them fully recovered from the incident. But later, many people online analyzed the situation, saying that it was because this person had a kind heart, and during the process of saving the elderly lady, he also created good karma through his kindness. That good karma could also reflect back onto himself. Otherwise, he himself might have collapsed there as well. If he had really collapsed and there was no ambulance, no any other vehicles around, then he would have died on the spot. There would have been no chance for him to recover. So it may seem like a very, very simple case, but in reality, some people who actually truly do good deeds really do receive some truly positive outcomes in their real lives. As for those individuals who do evil, they also tend to encounter many negative things in their daily real lives. Not everyone. Some of us believe that you reap what you sow, whether it's melons or beans. But is it really the case for everyone? Not necessarily. This is something the Buddha has mentioned in many sutras, treatises on karma and its effects. These causes and conditions do not apply to everyone in the same way, because the causes and conditions in each person's continuum are extremely complex. Some are fixed karma, some are not, and there are all kinds of ripening karmas. So indeed, the power of karma is truly inconceivable. Many of us here today are currently studying and actively learning. In the process of learning, the most crucial thing is whether you have a firm conviction in karma and its effects. Do you truly and unwaveringly believe in the law of cause and effect? This law of karma and its results really does exist. As for the way and manner in which it exists, it's not just a matter of thinking, maybe it's true because someone else said so, or maybe it's true because our teacher said so, or the Dharma tutor said so, or someone else said so. This kind of belief is not a very firm faith. It can't be called unwavering faith. What we should have is an unwavering faith. Nowadays, many of us seem a bit superstitious. For example, if we see a certain cloud on the mountain, we immediately think, Avalokiteshvara has appeared, or Manjushri has come, let me take a picture right away. If we see a rainbow, we exclaim, wow, this rainbow is wonderful. It must be the blessing of some master. Or if there's a clump of snow somewhere, and the shape of this snow clump looks a lot like Avalokiteshvara or a certain master, we can't say for sure that these things don't exist. The forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and such phenomena, but they do carry a hint of superstition. If a person like this, when they first develop faith, doesn't have genuine causes and conditions, then when they lose faith in the end, it's also like this. Back during the Cultural Revolution, some people developed faith very easily, but they also lost it just as easily. If, within our own mental continuum, we have a deeply rooted and unwavering faith in karma and its effects, a firm conviction, then no matter how many people come along, not to mention those individuals who hold differing views and alternative perspectives, even if it were truly Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who appeared, one would not waver. So one's own faith is indeed really very important. The other day we saw some incidents happen at certain temples where some monks were being slandered, because behind these situations there may be all sorts of circumstances involved. Even if it's all kinds of people created by AI, including photos of them being sent over, and then AI generating all sorts of images of women, all kinds of things, and then using them to slander others, many people below just start to echo what others say and begin to say, yes, saying things like so-and-so is really bad and so on. But actually those photos are all fake. As for the text, we don't know if it's fake or not. We are not qualified to investigate the deeper meaning behind it, but with the photos we can tell that this is definitely generated by ChatGPT or an AI, created by the AI itself. You can see it clearly in the photos. But in the comments section below, many people often say things like, oh yes, I definitely saw it. He went really way too far. Actually, in this way, sometimes people really do blindly lead the blind. It's actually quite frightening. So here I also want to say, if you truly love yourself, your approach must be to practice virtuous deeds. And if you practice virtuous deeds, you will truly find happiness in this life and also the next. Here it says, for example, a deserted city surrounded by strong moats. If someone truly cherishes themselves, they will carefully guard and protect themselves well. Here, what it's saying is, the following principle is explained through a compelling metaphor. For example, in our vast world, if there exists a rather remote and isolated place, a true wilderness, and in this place there is a city. City here means a walled city or town. If there is a city, because this ancient city, in order to effectively protect itself from the numerous and formidable dangers like powerful elephants, fierce lions, and other wild and truly ferocious beasts, as well as from enemy armies, and the dangers posed by the 4 types of military forces. So in ancient times, when people truly wanted to protect a city, they would often build a very sturdy and formidable moat all around it. A moat is basically like a particularly deep ditch filled with water. In the past, places like Beijing and Xi'an, especially where the emperor himself resided, there would be a special, dedicated imperial city, which was the emperor's own city, and immediately outside of it, there would typically be a protective moat surrounding it, a river that protected the city. India probably had something similar as well. Back then, this significant river or protective moat, it was often quite truly impossible to cross that particular formidable river indeed. There were also some places that were specifically surrounded by moats like these, completely encircling the city. So, what exactly were these layers of protection? There were indeed 7 distinct layers of defense. We can also mention this important detail in the following verse, mainly referring to the 7 layers. Other Buddhist scriptures also mention using 7 layers of defense for protection. This is extremely necessary. Even in the secular world, various sophisticated methods are carefully used to completely surround and effectively protect. Nowadays, the complex borders between modern countries are sometimes just barbed wire fences. Wasn't it the case that when the American president took office at that time, his only idea was to build a metal fence between the US and a certain country? It cost a lot of money, it came to nothing. So people can be quite troubled at times, and in order to protect themselves, they still do all sorts of things in many ways. For example, I just recently saw someone who specifically traveled to various places in Europe. That person is a very famous figure in the self-media world. He traveled to many different countries across the continent of Europe, and there are indeed a great number of nations within Europe. Between these countries, you only need 2 visas to get by. It's like our neighboring regions. On this side, people from that country, and on this side, people from this country. They don't need passports between them, nor do they need ID cards. There's just a boundary line, that's all. For example, right now, here we are. Between one province and another, it's just a boundary. And apart from that, there's absolutely nothing else. No fences, no distinct border lines, nothing at all in between. So I took a careful look, and it really truly works indeed. Between their countries, there really isn't anything at all in between. As long as you have a passport throughout all of Europe, just one passport visa is enough, and it's very relaxed to go to a neighboring country. But basically there's no war, no theft, and not much conflict of any kind whatsoever between them. It's exactly like that, but in most other countries all around the entire world, there are so many military troops stationed there all the time, with vigilant border guards, iron fences, and even deep, wide moats. This was also the case for the border between Nepal and China, where it used to be exactly like that. Historically, there was only one bridge connecting the 2 nations back then. That bridge in the middle of the river, when many people tried to cross the border illegally, they would jump into the river to get under the bridge. They'd go down and then come out on the other side, and just like that, they'd be in another country. So in the past, the Great Wall of China, at that time, Emperor Qin Shi Huang also built it to prevent enemy invasions. Back then, the state of Qin also faced a lot of external threats from all sides, and then it spent so much money and resources, and used so many people. Of course, later generations see it as a symbol, or as a heroic image. You could say that too. There are many different ways to truly interpret it, but in reality, all of humanity ultimately survives in the very same way. In this entire process, it's always constantly you kill me, I kill you back repeatedly and violently. The more desperately you constantly try to protect yourself, the more severe and truly increasingly really intense the enemy's attacks become. Sometimes when we watch the current news reports, whether it's international news or news from different countries, it seems that the more protective a country is, the more suffering its people experience. In countries that are more relaxed, people seem to be freer and happier. This kind of phenomenon does exist. So this is because people are always trying to protect themselves out of self-love, but there are many different ways to protect oneself. But I'm not talking about this in a negative way. In fact, many people throughout history have used moats or substantial city walls for their protection, or even various kinds of defensive walls to ensure their safety. And in this way, they develop a habit of protecting themselves. India used to be like this as well. Even now, they still place a great deal of significant importance on this particular aspect. So, speaking from the perspective of protection, the same principle applies. If a person cherishes themselves, they will guard and protect themselves well. In the same exact way, if we cherish ourselves as individuals, if we want to be fully responsible for ourselves, then we should protect ourselves well. Here, protect well is mentioned, and below, there's also something called store well. Here, it talks about protecting well. These terms appear in different places in commentaries. They have different explanations depending on context. Here, protecting well mainly refers to external threats, such as various enemy forces or external demons, and being good at guarding against these external adverse conditions. One way is through the weapon of one's own faith. not by using actual destructive real weapons like devastating nuclear weapons or any other such instruments of mass destruction. Sometimes when I analyze a lot of international news and current events, their various actions are quite amusing indeed. I often find myself laughing completely alone with absolutely no one else listening at all. Sometimes I just watch and amuse myself. I watch international news and see what's happening in different places. I really laugh out loud to myself like that, because sometimes the world is really quite pitiful, whether it's a country, an individual, or a family. In actual fact, many relationships between different countries are just like those between individual families. A lot of things are quite similar to that, but that's just everyone's own personal opinion, of course. It only represents oneself, not anyone else. So, if a person truly and genuinely wants to protect and guard themselves well, indeed, they should effectively use their own faith. And always rely on your own practice to protect yourself very well. Guard yourself properly. As we mentioned before, as human beings, truly many people wish to find happiness in this life and the next. But when it comes to the methods and approaches, they often go in the completely opposite direction. This situation is somewhat frightening. If you can truly protect all sentient beings, well, perhaps indeed you can achieve a profound and lasting peace. Even in your most terrifying circumstances, miracles will still appear. I mentioned this once the other day, back in June. At that time, during the plane crash in India, there were many things worth reflecting on. Wasn't there only one person who was rescued? It seems that 290 people had already perished. Only one person survived. And this plane, at the time, the vehicle violently crashed into the sturdy wall of an oil depot. At that moment, no one else survived, only one person. And that one particular person, in the devastating ruins of the massive explosion, had only a very slight injury on their face. Nothing else was wrong at all. Later, when some of his close friends vividly recalled, actually, this person was always especially eager to do good deeds. He actively participated in various charity work, often going to visit elderly people and started helping them. There were some elderly people living alone, and he also went to help those who were poor. He would always truly do any good deed that he possibly could. Later, didn't he also take care of more than 500 stray cats and dogs? He looked after all of them. His life, he upheld virtuous actions. He did not kill living beings and was a vegetarian. Of course, being vegetarian is something that many people in India enjoy, so this may not necessarily be related to his beliefs. But later, many people found it quite truly remarkable that this particular person might have consistently practiced virtuous deeds throughout his entire life, yet among so many other people, he was indeed the only one who made it out. But regardless of whether it was people from all over the world, it was originally a very rare occurrence. But basically, this matter was only briefly mentioned in many news reports, and by the next day, it was gone. It's impossible for it to be made a headline story or anything like that. Because in today's modern world we live in, people are afraid to talk about too much goodness. If everyone were kind-hearted, what would happen? There would be no one to fight wars, no one would ever kill, everyone would truly be like monks who have left their home. That wouldn't really work out. So when it comes to goodness, people feel the need to smear it a little. Or when they see, for example, revered devout monks, or when something happens in a monastery, some people get especially excited. Wow, finally there's something to talk about. Then they keep broadcasting it, keep talking about it, and keep spreading it around. Some people, even when they achieve something truly remarkable through good deeds, something that shocks the whole world, it still might not get widely shared. This is also a phenomenon of a truly degenerate age, I suppose. Globally speaking, we often say this is the Dharma ending age. There was once an old Dharma master who is no longer with us, and he used to say often his way of teaching was truly unique and stood out. I once, at a certain revered teacher's place, had the profound opportunity to hear some deeply exceptional teachings on the Pure Land practice. This is indeed the Dharma ending age, a challenging period where sentient beings are inherently difficult to guide and tame. Just joking, but sentient beings really are truly hard to tame. In the Dharma ending age, truly there are indeed all sorts of many different phenomena. Because of the 5 impurities, among these sentient being turbidity, affliction turbidity, and view turbidity, you can see all of this among these things. the spiritual capacity of sentient beings is also getting worse and worse. On top of that, when it comes to bad things, people are eager to embellish and spread them. But when it comes to truly good things, they try their best to avoid or even hide them. Perhaps this is just a common phenomenon of our current times. No matter what, one should guard oneself as if protecting a city gate. If you truly care about yourself, then you should often use right knowledge and right mindfulness to protect yourself well. So if you want to protect yourself, just like protecting a royal palace. As for myself, I try my best not to create negative karma. If I do create negative karma, it will definitely be harmful to sentient beings. But most importantly, it will be bad for myself. So those who love themselves try their best not to do bad things. This is the main point, to guard and protect oneself well. If a person truly cherishes themselves during the 6 periods of day and night, the wise will always patrol and act, skillfully hiding and protecting themselves. It's exactly the same situation here. If you truly love yourself, if you genuinely like yourself at all 3 times refers to 3 times during the day, 3 times at night, or the 6 periods of day and night. Let's just say the 6 periods of day and night. All of these things, anything at all like this, can also be expressed with a filler word, meaning at every single moment, day and night. That's the core idea. So what exactly should we do during the day and night? Because if you want to love yourself, you can't just simply think about it only occasionally. You really can't do that. You should protect yourself. Everyone should protect themselves. Protect yourself during the 3 times. If you are truly wise and indeed very proficient at thinking, if you have a certain ability to observe, then such a person practices vigilance, which is just like a sentry in the world, constantly, for example, like our gatekeepers or city guards or sentinels. These individuals are compelled to constantly observe and diligently protect, maintaining their vigilance throughout both the daylight hours and the darkness of night. It's essentially the same principle. These truly wise people diligently and consistently practice virtuous and commendable deeds and should not waste their precious and invaluable lives in vain. Indeed, even within a single profound and ancient Buddhist scripture, it is clearly stated that one should consistently practice and diligently accumulate virtuous deeds. Just like a tiny, industrious ant, it meticulously needs to build its own intricate nest, its very own secure and comfortable home. Yes, it's precisely like that. Even the very smallest virtuous deed, a truly good act, is still very much worth accumulating. The primary reason for accumulating, for example, if you truly protect yourself extremely well, even in situations in the world where there seems to be no way, you can still resist them. For instance, a very large elephant or something similar to that, comes to destroy. Others may not be able to do anything about it. But within your own mind stream, for example, when a large elephant aggressively attacks, even if you use spears, guns, or all kinds of weapons, you may not necessarily be able to defend yourself. But if we possess some truly virtuous qualities within our own mind stream, if there are indeed some virtuous deeds, then whether in a fierce battle or not, they can effectively protect us at any given time. So here it truly says, store up virtue and protect it very diligently. Earlier, it was about guarding and protecting virtue, but here it is specifically about storing up virtue and protecting it carefully indeed. Storing up virtue mainly refers to actively practicing virtuous actions. Previously, when we talked about protection, it specifically referred to protection from various external conditions, providing protection from the outside. But here, in the deep process of inner spiritual cultivation, one should do so in a more discreet and carefully concealed manner. Everyone knows that this kind of spiritual cultivation is an internal, deeply personal state. If we were to engage in open warfare or actively defend a city, for instance, that is an external method of protection. So here, it is about protecting in a skillfully hidden way, using a concealed approach for protection. Only in this profound way can one truly obtain genuine and lasting benefit. Therefore, those individuals who diligently practice virtuous and commendable deeds have some roots of virtue within their own mental continuum. On the surface, they may appear to be just ordinary, everyday people, but in actual reality, it is very meaningful, because within our innermost minds, we inherently possess this profound merit and this great virtue. Its inherent power will not simply disappear. For example, when we frequently and devoutly pray to the Yidam, pray to the Dharma protectors, or engage in our own meditation, and also apply some profound wisdom in our daily practice, then its inherent power becomes extremely strong. This includes, for example, if we have some protective amulets or sacred charms on us. Nowadays it seems that many young people basically do not really have any protective amulets at all. Apart from some decorative items, they essentially have nothing whatsoever. In the past, in Tibetan region, almost everyone indeed had their own go box, or some other items such as hair or nails of great masters and accomplished teachers, or pieces of their clothing, as well as some items that had been blessed by them, including things like cypress powder. There were indeed all sorts of interesting and useful things. When they encountered significant difficulties, they would rely on these particular items to help themselves overcome the various obstacles. This kind of thing did exist, but some of them might not necessarily have great power. We also can't say that all of these protective and blessed items are indeed effective. However, some of these are especially powerful and potent. I think it was the year before last, in 2023, I encountered a case then. You all might not know it, but it should have been reported in the news. Back in 1993, there was a tragic passenger plane crash in Urumqi, Xinjiang, China. It seems that more than 60 people were seriously injured in that particular crash. 12 people lost their lives at the time, including many crew members who were on the plane. All of them tragically died back then. At that time, there was a person. She is quite advanced in years now, because from the year 1993 all the way through to the current year of 2023, a significant span of 30 years has already elapsed, hasn't it? Back then, she was a 20-year-old flight attendant just beginning her career. Their plane had just taken off, or perhaps it was in the initial moments of its ascent. It happened at that precise moment. It seems like it tragically collided with something unseen. And then the plane crashed to the ground. She happened to be 20 years old that year. She made it out, and after she got out, I think I briefly mentioned this in a previous class as well, but I didn't go into detail, right? When she got out, she was also very dizzy. There were still a lot of people inside the plane, and the plane was about to catch fire, extremely dangerous. At that moment, she got out. She didn't even think about herself at all, and immediately ran quickly to the side of the road to flag down a passing car. She happened to find a truck. Then she went into the city. But back then, it wasn't like it is now. There were no cell phones or anything like that. It was all landlines, right, in the 1990s. So she promptly went to a nearby bustling city and without any delay, immediately made an urgent call to get 120, the emergency services hotline, to quickly come and provide assistance to rescue them. Later, most of the people on the plane were rescued. Afterwards, she received a truly significant and major award from the State Council. She was indeed awarded it, but she herself said, when I specifically asked her, "Why do you think you were the only one who managed to run out?" While it seemed like everyone else, including crew and flight attendants, had died or passed out, I asked her, "Why was you?" She herself believes her mother was a Buddhist believer and said she had a protective amulet on her. She didn't really know what exactly the protective item was. Even now, she's a devout Buddhist. She has studied Buddhist teachings and understands them well. She said that, in her opinion, even though she was young, her parents, her mother was a vegetarian, recited Buddhist scriptures, and was a devout Buddhist. Her mother insisted that she always carry this protective amulet with her. Otherwise, flying around in the vast sky, she would feel uneasy. So she wore this protective amulet. She truly believes this was the reason. Not only did she save herself, she didn't even have a scratch on her body. She even managed to successfully get to a nearby city in order to notify the relevant authorities regarding the situation. As a result, many people on the plane were later rescued. Now, when she looks back on the whole experience, especially as I asked her about it, she is particularly convinced that the power of the three jewels is truly incredible. This protective amulet I have is indeed extremely powerful. So sometimes when we observe, she is actually protecting herself in her own way. Some of us may not be very good at self-protection or may not know exactly how to do it at all, and they insist on using brute force to solve their problems. Or try to use other alternative means, for example, by deliberately killing or outright stealing, or by verbally attacking others, and all sorts of other various ways, as long as it means destroying or harming others, and then thinking you have truly gained something yourself. But in fact, from a true logical standpoint, this doesn't hold up. It goes against the law of cause and effect. And you will never truly benefit. So if each of us has a deep understanding in these areas, whether it's about protecting ourselves or protecting others, it actually becomes quite easy to do so. This is actually quite easy. Of course, this sutra primarily belongs to the common vehicle teachings, truly. So it doesn't talk about benefiting all sentient beings. The teachings on benefiting sentient beings, for example, in the Bodhikariyavatara and in texts, the Compendium of Trainings, they frequently mention benefiting sentient beings. They talk benefiting sentient beings, but it is not emphasized much. However, in terms of meaning, we should understand that when benefiting sentient beings, in fact, one should also be mindful of protecting oneself. It seems that 6 phrases together can help explain this more clearly and conveniently. For example, like a deserted city, strictly guarded inside and out, do not let your precious human life be lost. In the same way, protect yourself. If you are born in the hell realms, you will regret losing your precious human life. It might be better to explain these 6 lines together. What is meant here is that this is also explained using the reasoning we discussed earlier, and is also illustrated with a metaphor. No matter how you put it, it is the same idea. As we mentioned earlier, it refers to a rather remote and isolated border area, a truly sparsely populated city. This particular city is very tightly guarded, both internally within its walls and externally along its perimeter, with very strict protection everywhere. As mentioned earlier, there are generally indeed 7 types of defenses. Among these 7 defenses, there are fences on the outside, as well as formidable moats, various well-equipped weapons, and different armies. There are troops strategically stationed both inside and outside the city, along with high walls, guards constantly on the outside and inside, and so on. These 7 types of defenses are also mentioned in some Buddhist scriptures. There are also 4 types of food, including firewood, drinks, food, grains, and so on. Because if you want to protect the city, at the very least, the people inside need to have their basic needs met. So generally speaking, with these 11 crucial internal and external elements, the entire city can be thoroughly protected or strictly guarded, both from the inside and the outside. On the outside, there are formidable moats and strong, towering walls, while inside there are often large gates and gatekeepers and so on. Most ancient cities typically have these kinds of protective gates. In the same way, if we do not strictly protect ourselves, both inside and out, on the outside, we should truly utilize various effective and profound methods, including practicing the protective wheel, praying to the Dharma protectors, as well as practicing deity yoga, and so on. Internally, we rely on right awareness and unwavering mindfulness, and on consistent diligence, as well as various forms of meditation and concentration. If we do not practice, we should not allow our human life with leisure and endowments to be wasted meaninglessly. That would indeed be regrettable. This is just like diligently protecting our own physical body in this very way. Protecting oneself is extremely important. If we do not protect ourselves, then what will happen? Not only in this present life, one will experience all kinds of suffering, but also in the next life, one may be reborn in the reviving hell, or in the hells of wailing and great wailing, such as the Lotus Hell, or the Great Lotus Hell, or the Uninterrupted Hell, and within these hells there are also the 8 cold hells, and so on. In these hells one will experience immeasurable and boundless suffering. Therefore, at this time, one may feel regret and pain for all the various evil deeds committed in this human life, feeling remorseful and suffering, and the pain becomes unbearable. At that moment, one's precious human life with all its freedoms and advantages may already be lost. leading to a deep sense of disappointment. But there is nothing that can be done. It is of no use. So at that time, falling into the lower realms is truly pitiable. Sometimes, indeed, even in this very present life, the various different kinds of karmic results that we do actually experience in this current life are also very frightening. In a very short period of time, one can lose their sense of direction. For example, some people suddenly do find in their own mind stream immediately give rise to anger, and under the influence of that anger may commit murder or do all sorts of bad things and then deeply regret it for the rest of their lives. Sometimes a single careless thought arising in one's mind can actually destroy many precious things. In the distant past, when Anshigao came to the Han region, he came to save the soul of a Dharma master who had preceded him. He was suffering terribly in hell. Through diligently reciting sutras and various other spiritual methods, he was finally truly liberated. It was as if a person dressed in pure white suddenly appeared, rising up to the heavens like a wisp of vapor. Although this is told as a story or a piece of history, in reality it is indeed also quite possible. But why did this actually happen in his previous life then? Once it seems that many people received all kinds of offerings, but he himself was a Tripitaka master, and there was arrogance in his mind stream. He was dissatisfied with offerings made to him. When dissatisfied, he gave rise to a negative thought. Because of this negative thought, he fell into a lower realm. So sometimes when we talk about these things in general, karmic relationships in Buddhism, some people are afraid, some dislike it. Yet there is nothing one can do. Some Dharma teachers advise against discussing good or bad deeds and their results, especially bad deeds. Otherwise, people don't like it. This way, people won't develop faith in the Dharma. But whether they develop faith or not, this is a truth nonetheless. This kind of truth, it is our responsibility to speak about it. If they don't listen, there's nothing we can do and it doesn't really matter. But we should always truly know, whether it's deep within ourselves or in others, karma and its effects can truly be frightening at times. Some people don't dare to talk about karma and its consequences. When they do talk about it, they themselves feel uncomfortable. There used to be a saying that generally monks are very happy when they don't study the precepts. But once they start studying the precepts, their comfortable days come to an end and they feel a lot of pain, because if they don't study the precepts at all or remain unaware of them, monastics don't have many worries in their daily lives and they live quite happily. But after studying them, even a minor offense can result in suffering in the reviving hell for 80,000 years. Many of these things in the Buddhist scriptures, it feels wrong to believe them, but also wrong not to believe them. This brings about a sense of fear, anxiety, and worry. Such a state of mind continues on, but it's best if you understand this for yourself. If you know it yourself, then, if you are indeed a wise person, you will deeply reflect on it. This truly is the profound Vajra speech of the Buddha, and there is no deception in it. If that's the case, then in this very life, even a short period of hunger, cold, or heat, that itself is already immense suffering. So in this very life, what should I do if I truly experience these sufferings? In the past, His Holiness often said, what it means that even a tiny spark falling on your body, on your own body, is so unbearable. When the flames of hell touch your body, the scorching flames of hell, how could you possibly endure it? How could you bear it? So we should believe in karma, believe in cause and effect, and protect ourselves. Well, we need to protect ourselves. This is extremely important. Otherwise, sometimes in this vast and often unpredictable world, things can indeed be quite profoundly frightening, causing a deep sense of unease. Even if we make a small mistake, its consequences can be very terrifying. Not only is this the case with the connections between our past and present lives, but it applies in this lifetime as well. I have visited some prisons and talked with inmates, asking them questions. I've been to many prisons in China and abroad. Inside, I'd ask people, how did you end up here? I came because I killed someone. Why did you kill someone? Because anger took over me. Once it came out, I couldn't control myself. I stabbed him with a knife. He regretted it for the rest of his life. He suffered greatly his entire life. So sometimes just the slightest difference in a person's thoughts, even the tiniest thing. This discriminating mind is really strange. In the same way, As monastics, we also have many instances where a single thought makes a difference. For example, we have particularly deep abysses, and if we make even a small mistake, we fall straight into a bottomless abyss. In this human world, but those who are truly wise are much more cautious and careful. Earlier, when we talked about vigilance, I wonder whether this idea of vigilance has brought about even a slight change in your minds. My thought is that as we discuss this Dharma now, not only might it be useful for us in future translation work, but whether it will actually be effective, it's hard to say. Translation is a very troublesome matter. I often lose confidence in translation myself. The more I translate, the more troublesome it seems to get. But what's even more important is that regardless of whether it's Chinese or Tibetan, many people understand Chinese when they listen to it, clearly read facial expressions. They laugh when it's time to laugh, but when it's time to cry, no one actually cries. But logically speaking, in the past, weren't there some great masters of the Kadampa tradition? When they taught about the sufferings of hell, the teacher would be crying and the students would be crying too. But in our place, that probably wouldn't happen. I don't have anything to cry about either. If I cried, you might just laugh. You might think, is he pretending or what? What's going on? I don't know.
Shurnam ganda semji yon tabjang dagla chi dingaya mamton dagle chi dingaya mamton tetar so janla rang tikpe devsir dag ge janla not mafshit.
As for this scripture here, sometimes especially many words in the Tibetan version, and sometimes very few words. When there are few words, like 5 characters, it's easier to translate. But when there are a lot of words, it gets a bit difficult to translate. So you have to translate every important explanatory word in it, making sure to render all the key terms. At the same time, the content is relatively easy to understand. In general, in some Mahayana and Bodhisattva vehicle scriptures and treatises, they often emphasize being simple and easy to understand. The language doesn't necessarily need to be especially convoluted or awkward. If it's too much like that, no one will truly understand it, and it won't have any real meaning at all. So now, when translating, making it easy to understand is very important. Because people today are lazy, a lot of translations done by people in ancient times are difficult for them to understand. For example, we now have Tian Shizai's translation. It is already fully included in your comprehensive lecture notes as well. Take a look and see if you understand it or not. Originally, I intended to teach from that version, but later I realized that if I taught from it, maybe 90% could be explained, but about 10% would sometimes be a bit difficult. That's also the reason for retranslating it. So for some of the terms in here, this is really just the only way. Now regarding this case, at that time there was a queen consort named Huaman. Queen Huaman had great faith in the Buddha. She had such faith, and she would personally cook herself to prepare food offerings for the Buddha. She would make these offerings herself. She did this herself. At this time, another queen consort was very jealous, extremely jealous. So she went to the king and said, look at how much she loves the Buddha. Look at what she does, how she serves him. If you look at this, it should be clear, very clear. At that time, the king, some kings as well as some merchants, generally wouldn't look into things in detail. They would just listen to one side of the story. So he started to aggressively threaten Queen Huaman with a sharp sword or some other menacing weapon like that. He began to forcefully intimidate Queen Huaman. He asked, "Who do you really love?" Just like that. And she replied saying, "In actual fact, ultimately, I truly love myself the very most of all, you see." Because of this reason, the Buddha spoke these 2 profound verses in direct response to this particular matter. That is the situation. And some people say it was in reference to the group of 6 monks. The reason they harmed others, it is also said that the following verses were indeed spoken because of that very specific reason. In any case, it is said that searching everywhere, there is nothing greater than loving oneself. Others also love themselves, so do not harm others. If we look at this comprehensively and use wisdom to observe, what should we observe? Whether it's all the places in the 10 directions, all sentient beings in the 10 directions, whether it's east, south, west, north, or southwest, northwest, and so on, all the beings in the 4 cardinal directions and the 4 corners, if we observe each one individually, in fact, every sentient being loves themselves. and none surpass their love for themselves. People say things like, I love you, I'll love you for a lifetime, and so on. In many movies and TV shows, they keep saying this, but when it comes down to it, what they love is themselves. They would never the other person when there are certain choices. There are matters of gain and loss. When there are interests involved, you can see whether others are truly capable of loving others. This we can see in the biographies of Shakyamuni Buddha and Manjushri Bodhisattva. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas truly love sentient beings, and they love all sentient beings. Even those sentient beings who may truly harm them, they will still deeply love them as well. Aside from this, all other sentient beings actually only love themselves. This surpasses everything else. In this way, one loves oneself the most, more than family, friends, or any other person. As for others, if we were to use this information to infer about others, reasoning in this particular way, when we deduce this, in fact, all sentient beings also love themselves, and others are the same. Every single one, including us humans, is definitely like this. Every person, yes, every single person, with the sole exception of myself, they all deeply love themselves. And animals too. Animals especially love themselves. They love their own lives. Therefore, we should not harm other sentient beings, so do not harm others. This is also true in Confucianism. Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. What you dislike, others also dislike, truly. This includes your own life and any and every part of your physical body. The profound way you truly love yourself, in fact, all other sentient beings are exactly and precisely the same. But nowadays, many people do not really love other sentient beings that much. They don't even truly love their own family members. Wasn't it just a mere few years ago that someone actually turned in his own wife at home, completely into minced meat, and then promptly dumped it in the toilet? And subsequently, actually there have been many such cases reported. It seems like this current year, just recently, right, there was also a news story circulating saying that right next to a bustling train station, someone found a particularly pitiful and truly unfortunate cat. However, all 4 of the poor cat's limbs had been very neatly and precisely cut off, and shockingly, inside the cat's body, there were also 4 kittens. Later, they analyzed whether this was done during an animal dissection or if it was some evil person who deliberately did this. Nowadays, the style of education is currently indeed different. The cruelty towards animals is truly horrifying. Some people said that at around 3 in the morning, it seemed like they heard the cat crying. So it's very likely that some young people deliberately cut off all the cat's limbs while the cat was still alive, which is so pitiful. Moreover, they believe that the whole process and actions were all truly very skillful. It must be that they often harm such living beings. Even the overall education in today's contemporary world, in many aspects, is especially frightening, including in some big cities where people cruelly and inhumanely throw innocent puppies and tiny helpless kittens from over 30 floors up. In ancient history, some brutal and ruthless tyrants would often force young children to drink milk, and after drinking and drinking until they were full, they would throw them off tall buildings. They thought this was very entertaining to watch. Some tyrants in history have done such things as well. But these things perhaps are actually quite indeed facts. As for us currently now, many of you are laughing. Why is that? It truly seems like almost everyone would genuinely say about this particular story, is that truly, really so? But the current situation overall, there are some particularly egregious and excessively harsh behaviors, including those nations currently engaged in active warfare right now, after brutally capturing individuals from the opposing side. Whether it's outright, brutal and merciless slaughter, or extremely excessive, prolonged and utterly cruel abuse towards these innocent creatures, these devastating phenomena are also especially pitiful. But there's nothing that can be done about it, is there? In principle, every sentient being truly loves their very own selves. We should also try our best to love them as well. But in reality, it's something we can't actually do. He goes on to say, All living beings truly love their own lives and deeply fear being punished. Measure others by yourself. Do not hit nor kill, and always show compassion. These sentient beings, no matter what kind or form they may take, every single living being here, what do they truly love most in this world? It is without a doubt their very own precious life. But everyone, what are all sentient beings most profoundly afraid of? They are afraid of being harmed, injured, or inflicted with pain by others. They are also afraid of suffering all kinds of severe punishments. Therefore, you can use your own body as a compassionate measure and guide for others. By truly putting yourself in their place, you should absolutely not harm any sentient beings. Do not hit them, and certainly do not kill them. Don't ever hit them, and don't ever kill them either. Just as it is said in the ancient Buddhist scriptures about the deadly harad poison, whether someone else eats it or you eat it yourself. In reality, it is extremely painful either way. The same principle applies. Whether it's your own life being threatened or someone else's life being threatened, in reality, it's all the same. But some of us are rather slow-witted, so we often, in these situations, especially in many of our schools today, there is no real education about love. The so-called education about love in schools now is completely distorted. All those worldly emotions, illusory things, there is no teaching about loving oneself, loving sentient beings, parents. None of that exists. That's why now everyone is truly aware of the serious issue of school bullying. This seems to be, nowadays, according to recent reports in China, just this year or something, there have been well over 9,800 cases or something like that, reaching 10,000 according to official statistics. In reality, this is extremely frightening. Now, abuse is quite common. Some time ago, I didn't dare say much about it, but this is actually a truly very well-known case worldwide as well, indeed. For example, abusing some students. The methods of abuse employed were extremely, indeed exceptionally cruel and harsh. Furthermore, her parents are both deaf and mute, and the individual who actually perpetrated this abuse, a person with significant connections or a similar influential organization. Some people even specifically record it. One person abuses while another person records it. After recording their content, they then upload it online. To download this particular video, you can simply, if you want to watch it, it costs 6 or 7 yuan. They use this as a way to make money. They don't even consider that these are lives, or that these people are very pitiful. Some people even think it's quite entertaining. They truly love to hit others, and they genuinely love to harm others. These individuals don't really think about anything at all. So seeking pleasure and actively avoiding suffering is essentially the same thing, right? In the Way of the Bodhisattva, it says that all sentient beings and I are the same in avoiding suffering and seeking happiness. Care for others as you would care for yourself. This treatise also teaches the same thing. So in our complex world today, sometimes when we look at the vast outside world, it truly feels a bit utterly hopeless. Whether it's education or people's hearts, many things are completely unexpected, not to mention measuring things by Mahayana Buddhism. Even when it comes to the most basic rules of being a person, they don't have them at all. There's no sense of humanity. And this isn't just a minority of people. Most people, unfortunately, treat it as a mere form of entertainment. That's precisely why there are so many disturbing incidents of school bullying nowadays. Of course, it existed before as well. Even when we were in school, it happened too. Some of the more aggressive students would often bully those younger ones. This kind of phenomenon did exist, but now it's even more rampant and unrestrained, and this kind of behavior is destroying all sense of character and rules. It's truly terrifying. Exiled to a distant and unfamiliar land, returning safely home, when reunited with dear friends and beloved family, one often shouts with great joy. For those individuals who diligently cultivate virtue thus, from this life to the next, merit will arrive as expected, bringing joy like a loved one returning home. Let me see. What this means is, for example, if someone is exiled to a faraway and distant place, and then that person eventually returns safely from their journey, when they come back safely after their travels, all their friends and relatives, including their parents, their immediate family, loved ones, and their children. They all gather together in one place for a special occasion. They are especially joyful and full of cheer, loudly expressing their happiness. They are especially joyful, shouting happily, "Alala, ouch! Oh, it is not ouch."
Alala emaho.
Just like in our modern days, there are some people who are imprisoned for offenses like theft and other such things, and when they return, people go out to welcome them ceremoniously. Originally, this would indeed be a truly shameful thing for that person, but now, surprisingly, they even send a motorcade to personally pick them up. If they came back on their own, maybe it would be better, but sometimes things like this do happen. For example, with children who have been abducted, when they return, it's understandable for their families to celebrate a little. But no matter what, there are also those who were exiled far away and then return. Nowadays, with globalization and changing international relations, it seems that some countries have visa-free entry upon arrival, so after many years, when their relatives who went abroad eventually return home, they are also happily welcomed back. There are cases like this too. This is a metaphor. Just like those who cultivate merit from this life to the next, their blessings will arrive as expected, just like the joy of a loved one returning home. In the same way, those who practice and accumulate merit, those who gather spiritual resources from this life to the next, even in this life, if they engage in virtuous deeds, and in the next life, no matter what happens, regardless of the prevailing circumstances, whatever acts of generosity or charity they may have performed previously, the merit from these deeds will arrive right on time. Nothing else can truly keep up with them indeed. Only his enduring, accumulated spiritual merit will faithfully follow him. This profound merit is truly just like a close family member, always welcoming you and very much accompanying you. Here, this is indeed a kind of personification. In the commentary here, some details have been omitted a bit, and some other things have been added in between. So in this world we live in, what is most beneficial? What matters most? It is merit, merit. Previously in the Chuyaojing Udāna Varga, it was also mentioned, wasn't it? There was a place called Shravasti, where there was a particularly poor person. This extremely poor person, in the end, was disliked by many people and looked down upon. Later, he was treated with great contempt by many people. He wanted to go out to work, to earn money elsewhere, far away from here. Eventually, he made a good amount of money. Things went well for him. I've talked about this particular story quite a few times before, indeed. When he came back at that time, many of those who had previously looked down on him, all his relatives and friends, came to welcome him with great fanfare and elaborate ceremonies at the gate. His name was Zhongqing. He himself dressed as a beggar and stayed at the back. Many relatives were asking, "Where is Zhongqing?" and searching for him everywhere. When they ran into him, he'd say, "He's outside, in front, in the back," and kept tricking them like this. Later, they found out the truth. "Why did you trick us? We missed you so much. We're so happy you came back this time." Later, he said, "The main reason I tricked you was you don't really like me. My money and wealth are in that carriage. Isn't it the money you actually like? That's what I truly meant. You were clearly welcoming the money, not me, which was quite evident in your actions." Later, he and that particular relative, after some discussion, together worked to ensure the matter settled down. They went together to respectfully see the Buddha, seeking guidance. The Buddha then began to recite these profound 2 verses. Some commentaries also explain it in this way. Therefore, our accumulated merit, this spiritual merit, is indeed very important and truly essential for us. In the past, the Ekotarika Agama also mentioned this. Of all the powerful and influential forces in our world, merit is indeed very important. Of all the powers in the world, among gods and humans, the power of merit is supreme. It is through merit that one attains Buddhahood. That is, among all the powers in the world, merit is very important. Do a bit more good deeds, do virtuous acts. Merit is simply doing good deeds. Among all humans and gods, the power of merit is the most important. In the past, Buddhist scriptures also told the story of the Prince of Merit. The power of merit is truly the most supreme in this world. With a sufficient amount of merit, even the attainment of Buddhahood is certainly not a problem. Therefore, speaking from a worldly perspective, if you truly do some genuinely good deeds, this power of merit will always accompany you. It's like when you come from a faraway place and your friends and family come to greet you. When you leave this life and go to the next, in your next life, all the merit you have accumulated in this life will be waiting for you ahead. It's just like having a close relative. For example, when you take a flight somewhere, it's just like having someone greet you at the airport. There's nothing I can take with me when I leave this world, not even my own body. But when you reach the next life, the merit you have accumulated before will always be like a close relative, welcoming you and greeting you. That's why doing good deeds is so important. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Om